every single time. Now, listen, dopamine addiction. So I said this. And if you're missing on my Telegram platform, simply go on Telegram, download that app for Telegram. Telegram is not for gossip. Go there and join health platforms, financial platforms that will teach you something about life. My platform is called Health and Wellness Sport. Go there and join those 7,000 people there. Make yourself useful. Ask those questions, they'll be responded to. So on Telegram, I posted this, that the more negative emotions, and this is to people who always complain about being emotional eaters. When they depress, they eat so much. So the more the negative emotions we are dealing with, the more vulnerable we are to dopaminergic signals. Now, somebody will ask, what is this dopamine? Why am I even talking about dopamine? Because every time I'm saying dopaminergic, what is dopamine? There is a book called Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke. Is it Lemke or Lembeck? This book. It's called Dopamine Nation. Right? Finding balance between the age, finding balance in the age of indulgence. Dopamine Nation. You can find that book and start reading it. It's very interesting and it will teach you something about these things. Okay? So we said the more negative emotions we are going through or we are dealing with, the more vulnerable we are to dopaminergic signals. And realize this, that dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is very necessary for our systems. So you see, when you have no motivation, and for men, when you lack motivation, that can be a high level of testosterone levels being very low. Okay, the high chance of testosterone being low. Sorry. So do not focus so much on dopamine and forget the testosterone, because the modern man is so effeminate. The modern man is an alcoholic. The modern man eats a lot of processed and junk foods. Therefore, their testosterone levels starts to go down, and they end up lacking motivation. Remember, that's a hormone that you're supposed to protect as a man, to make sure that you are in order. That word man has a definition. So for you to actually make sure you are living up to that standard of the name man and not male, you must boost your testosterone levels. So when you realize you're having all these low energies, no motivation, you're tired, even though you had your good sleep, your 8 hours of sleep, you still wake up very tired in the morning, you have brain fog. This could be a chance that actually your dopamine levels are very low. Why? Because dopamine is a hormone that plays a very important role in the pleasure system, in the reward system of the body, in motivation, in happiness, and the feel good, basically, including learning. So it's a very, very important hormone, but most of us have demonized it. But yes, we can demonize it when it comes to dopamine addictions, and we'll talk about that as we go forward. So I said, the more negative emotions we are dealing with, the more vulnerable we are to dopaminergic signals. So when you feel bad, when you feel low, when you feel depressed, and I've said this multiple times, that when you feel more than you think, you are actually misplaced. When you feel more than you think, realize you totally are misplaced. Did my YouTube bring issues? Did my YouTube bring issues? All right. So realize this, when you start feeling all these low emotions, they impact negatively. And the moment you feel low, you start focusing so much on what is actually causing you the low. And that becomes a serious problem. So I want you to realize this. The more negative emotions you are, the more vulnerable you are to start producing the dopamine, because the body is always struggling to make you get at par. It's always trying to make you get in order. All right. So when you have a low state, the body tries to bring back the state to an elated mood. When you have so much elated mood, the body brings it down a little bit. So it's a natural process. So when you're feeling very low, your body totally starts to produce dopamine to actually give you a reward, to just at least feel better. So it's actually trying to bring back the normalcy. However, this dopamine is going to send you to bring things in that will continuously boost its production so that you maintain a state of high. I'm putting that high in quotes. High. Why? Because it cannot, dopamine when it's produced is actually metabolized so fast and it goes down immediately, just like insulin. You produce insulin and after 3 hours or so, it's gone. Now you need more insulin. So dopamine receptors will allow this dopamine to work on them, give you some few motivation, but they will constantly send you into cravings for things that totally excite and cause production of this dopamine. That is alcohol, that is food in terms of sugars, that is sex, that is masturbation, that is movies, that is your phone, social media, and all that. So these are the things that actually cause production of dopamine. Now, you develop a dependence to this. So the more you produce the dopamine, the more you produce these hits of dopamine in your brain, there's a threshold. So it's just like beer. You drink 2 bottles of beer today, you get drunk. Tomorrow you have to take 4. Tomorrow you have to take 6. The following day you have to take a whole crate. That's how it happens. So you produce a certain amount of dopamine today to excite you, and then this dopamine hits, you keep on raising the threshold, raising the threshold. And as you raise the threshold, it means you will require more production of dopamine to actually achieve your goal, all right, to actually feel good. Now that is the problem, because at that moment in time, we call it dependence. We even call it more, actually called tolerance. Because now you need more amounts of dopamine and more hits of dopamine to achieve a simple hit, a simple goal of feeling good. So imagine that. So every time you're eating that sugar, you're causing production of dopamine. Tomorrow you have to eat 2 biscuits. The following day you have to eat pizza. So it goes on and goes on as you reach the threshold. And when you get to that level, anything below that level is depression. Anything below that level, you cannot get the feel good. So you constantly seek for that habit that actually excites you. And this is the reason why we said, when you're suffering from more depression, you have these more bad feelings, the body is constantly trying to bring back the normalcy, and it sends you into these dopamine signals and productions. So dopamine is a hormone that the body uses as a reward system to give the body the feel-good effect, the pleasure, right? So once you get the pleasure, that's a reward. You feel good. When you feel good, you want to feel good again. The body wants to feel good over and over. So you'll keep on chasing that habit and that behavior until it becomes now a habit. And coming out of that habit becomes a difficult process. But anyway, we'll talk about how to come out of that habit. So dopamine helps you shut off negative emotions because it raises your mood, all right? But as you shut down negative emotions, will you constantly be relying on this production of dopamine to shut down negative emotions? No. So you must train your dopamine, all right? So dopamine helps you shut down negative emotions, and negative emotions induce more of the cravings of the dopamine. When you feel bad, the body wants to help you feel better. The brain releases dopamine to get you pleasure, all right? Each time this happens, you get these dopamine hits that keep you hooked to the same things that gives you pleasure. The danger here is the dependence. Hey, okay, all right. So when your body gets used to these dopamine hits from social media, from text messages, even notifications, and you realize this, most times we are always trying to pull the phone, okay? There's that notification bar. Every single person, you pick your phone and the first thing you do is to pull that notification bar to see who has actually texted you, who has followed you, who has liked your stuff, who has shared, and all that. And this mostly happens even on TikTok. You're constantly scrolling. And you realize the more you scroll, there's a way the algorithms will just give you the same things. Now it gets boring to an extent that you now start searching for what is actually next interesting. All right, so you keep on scrolling, gossip. Now the next time is politics. The next time is clothing and all that. The next time is health. So you're literally all over trying to seek the new hit, the new high every time. So over time, it gets wired. The brain gets wired in a way that it's always in a deficit. It makes it hard for us to stay motivated without instant gratifications. It makes it hard for us to even focus on a goal or a task when you don't have this instant gratification. And this actually happens mostly in people who go to the gym. There are boys who go to the gym and their main goal is to actually just puff up, become big and scary. Now within 3 months, 4 months, they're not gaining any muscle. Because they don't want to trust the process, they simply go and take the fructose in terms of the protein shakes, in terms of bananas, energy drinks, and all these steroids in the gym to gain mass, because they want to be a beast. You want to be a beast so fast. Problems. All right? So these instant gratifications that you get from just scrolling the phone, from just getting excitement for who liked your post, and you put out a video and somebody likes it and you get so excited about it, these are the things that actually bring you problems. When you masturbate and you ejaculate, the feeling of ejaculation, the feeling good that you get after that ejaculation is the reason why you keep on having these episodes of going back to masturbate over and over. And then you realize you get to a point where you can masturbate 4 times in a night and it's still not enough. At this moment in time, you've lost even touch with women or men. You've lost touch with reality. And now you have to rely constantly on masturbation to actually satisfy yourself sexually. You've realized that those men who actually masturbate, even a handshake, they have a very weak handshake. They are so shy, they can't look straight into your eyes. They have a very weak handshake. They are always in a hurry. Even writing, they can't write properly. Why? Because they are always in a hurry because of instant gratification. They want instant gratification. Nobody is chasing you, but you're constantly writing. You write in short forms. You're always in a hurry. You don't even space your words so clearly. Where are you rushing to? It's a sign of these problems, low testosterone and masturbation issues. Because of delay, that is actually dopamine addiction. Now, I'm not saying you go around shaking people's hand to just see who masturbates. Hey, people can be evil. Hey, this one masturbates, this one. No, don't go around judging people all through. Remember, Friday will whip you hard, okay? So dopamine is a problem to the modern generation because every single thing we do is actually linked to the dopamine. Just the same way, most health conditions are linked to sugars. Most addictions are actually linked to dopamine. Whether biological, physiological, all these dependencies that are actually happening, psychological, are coming in as a result of dopamine effect. So yes, we have just different branches of addictions, but if you go deeper into it, you realize the baseline is the same. So if you fix the dopamine, all the addictions disappear. And remember, fixing dopamine does not mean you just working to lower dopamine or maybe just dropping a habit. You will suffer the consequences because now, the moment you drop a habit, I always encourage you to replace a habit with a healthy habit. But if you go ahead and just drop one habit, you cannot survive. The withdrawal symptoms will take you back. So don't focus on dropping a habit. Focus on changing that habit or replacing it with a healthy habit. For example, if you know very well, after a job, you will pass somewhere to take 2 for the road. Why don't you replace that with the gym so that you just move from work and you head straight to the gym? You see that? Now the gym will now give you a new high. And now you better be addicted to the gym than be addicted to alcohol. Because the gym you have control. And then the pleasure that comes after the gym is going to boost your testosterone, also is going to build your muscle. So you see that's a healthy habit. But if you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to drop alcohol, you will not. You will fail multiple times. How many people have said, I'm going to drop wheat, I'm going to drop chapatis. Oh, I'm eating chapati for the last time. And then they eat for the next 7 days consecutively. And then they say, I know what to do, see, I'll just fast. I will fast. How many of you have done that? So don't demonize dopamine. Dopamine is actually a very exciting neurotransmitter. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is actually found from meats. Red meat. When you eat red meat, you get this dopamine. Because there's an amino acid in the red meat that is actually called tyrosine. That amino acid is the one that actually helps you produce dopamine. Okay? So therefore, eat red meat in plenty. Don't be lied to the red meat is going to cause you colon cancer or all this nonsense. Eat red meat in plenty. Make it fatty. Because you need the fat also to absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. So, in case you didn't know, dopamine is the hormone that is involved in motivation, plus testosterone, right, in men. And then pleasure. So every pleasure, every feel-good that you get after eating, after drinking the alcohol. And you realize when you're drinking alcohol, in the initial phases it's so exciting. People are excited. But the more you intoxicate yourself with the alcohol, you start getting depressed. That's the weird part about alcohol. Now that depression state is going to send you into more dopamine because tomorrow you chase alcohol thinking that it will give you the excitement that you've actually been missing. Yet it's the same alcohol that actually depressed you. So it's interesting. Anyway, so motivation, pleasure, and learning. You see those? So that if you have low dopamine, you end up getting a medical condition that is called Parkinson's. If you have low dopamine, you end up having Parkinson's. So people who have Parkinson's, those people who shake their hands and they shuffle their legs and they lose balance, these are people who suffer from low dopamine levels. You've seen those people, they shuffle their legs, specifically the older people. And the weird part about Parkinson's, the symptoms of rigidity, postural imbalance, you don't have balance, you're shuffling your legs, and tremors during rest. You're resting, but you have these tremors. The symptoms of Parkinson's start coming in when you are at 60 to 80% of failure of these nerves. The dopaminergic nerves and receptors, they've failed 60 to 80%. That's when the symptoms come in. So you can imagine how much you've messed up your system to the extent now you have to get Parkinson's. You've destroyed your dopamine receptors so much, 60 to 80% of them. So you're only left with 20 to 40% of the receptors and the nerves. And now the only thing that is done is to supplement the dopamine. When we give you levodopa, we're actually supplementing the dopamine. But you see, this dopamine can actually be synthesized by the body through eating fatty meats. So why don't you eat the fatty meats and protect your dopamine receptors? Because you'll never have addiction to fatty meat. You will never have addiction to fatty meat. How many of you have the addictions to fatty meat? And how much fatty meat can you eat in one sitting? But you can imagine how much benefit that small amount of fatty meat is going to give you. The reward system is actually stabilized. Now you have motivation. And you see, for men, if you're taking the fatty red meat, not only are you getting the dopamine, you're also getting testosterone, because testosterone is coming from those fats. Testosterone comes from cholesterol, and cholesterol comes from these fats. So again, stop demonizing cholesterol, because it's going to save you a big deal. All these things are connected in a way, and health becomes so simple to understand. All right? So in a healthy brain, of course, dopamine is the one that controls eating habits, it controls the mood and exercise, it controls social bonding, it controls achieving goals. When you achieve a goal, you feel good, that is dopamine. When you socialize and speak to women as a man, you feel good, that is dopamine and testosterone. When you smash a goal and you feel good, that's dopamine. When you buy a child a bike after them passing an examination, you're giving them dopamine, you're feeding them with dopamine. When you excite your child with sugar, dopamine. I've seen that most parents will simply substitute discipline with sugar. So, for example, they will tell a child, Babji, let's use Babji. Babji, achana na hiyo, shika hii, you give chocolate. Babji is trying to struggle with something there that you don't like. Mothers, you tell Babji to stop struggling with that thing and then you give chocolate. That is sugar addiction. Now you start wondering, how did this child get addicted to the sugar so much? How does this child have low immunity every single time? But you fed the dopamine. And this is actually seen in most children. That the reward we give them every single time is sugars. Either lollipop, either pizza, either chocolate, or bulb, whatever it is. But mostly, or candy. Mostly it's just sugars. So imagine how we start messing our children's guts and the dopamine receptors from an early age. It becomes problematic. So start fixing those children as early as this, okay? So now, the moment you raise the dopamine, so you see every time you eat the sugars or you drink the alcohol, or you have the sex, or you're always on phone, every time you're doing that, you're giving yourself these hits of dopamine. So it's released in small doses. Every time, a hit of dopamine. And now, you constantly raise the threshold in the brain, threshold of dopamine. How much, the threshold basically means how much of dopamine you need to achieve a goal. So how much dopamine do you need to achieve this pleasure? So the more you produce the dopamine, it's like insulin. The more you produce the insulin, it comes to a place where the body is now tired. The body does not want it. So that level is called dopamine resistance. That's the same way we have insulin resistance. At that moment in time, you have all the addictions on this world. You are so addicted to whatever thing you are. And the weird part, you can still be addicted to nature, because dopamine can actually be produced naturally by you connecting with the nature. For example, when you simply watch a sunset, you produce dopamine. But the amounts of dopamine that you produce by watching a sunset is so minimal, it gives you a very good feeling and then it disappears. And your body resets. When you go and walk into a stream bare feet and you reconnect with your childhood memories, dopamine. When you go for a hike and you climb that hill and then you achieve that goal, dopamine. When you take a cold shower, initially you feel so bad, but after the cold shower, you feel good, dopamine. So there are natural ways to actually improve and get these dopamine hits without having to excite yourself and produce so much of the dopamine that will cause you tolerance. Those are some of the natural ways. And actually, those are the ways that you can actually substitute the unhealthy habits with. For example, if you know very well, during weekends, you're constantly going out to eat in restaurants, those useless inflammatory foods. You're going out with friends to actually do crazy things. What do? Substitute that with going for a hike. Let's go for a hike. It's so cheap. Shopping is a negative one. McKenna, shopping is a good one, yes. But you see, it leads you to impulse shopping. And these most ladies, always online shopping for things, always trying to seek validation online. Impulse shopping is crazy. It's actually totally dopamine. And it can actually lead you to getting broke. Totally broke for shopping online every single time because of you want to shop every single thing in the market. Oh, it gets you crazy. So yes, you can go shopping as a lady. You can be, but I know, ladies, let's agree, McKenna. Ladies don't like shopping. They like using men's money. msichana mgani, which lady loves spending their own money? You tell me. Maybe I'm confused. Help me understand. Is there is there a lady who would like to just spend her money shopping? If you do, yes. If you do, you've not met a man. Well, there's a feeling of just spending a man's money. It's a different feeling. And there's also a different feeling for us as men to just provide for a woman. It's a good feeling because a man is designed to provide anyway. So if you you like spending your money just because you've not encountered this one, you call them Luo men. Luo men seek validation for no good reason. Crazy Luo men. They have made Kikuyu men suffer. Tawe. Anyway, let's continue. So yes, let me ask before I forget, how much is too much time spent on the phone? Now listen, we are not here to measure how much time you spend on the phone. That is up to you. It depends on what you're doing. Even the laptop can actually give you that. It's not about the phone alone. But you see, most of the times you go to the phone, you have an intention. You move to the phone, you want to do something on the phone. Something very creative. Maybe you wanted to check a message and then reply and then move. But look at yourself. After replying the message, maybe you did not even get the message. So you got so upset about it. And the next thing you're doing is on your TikTok. Yeah, scrolling TikTok. And all you're scrolling is gossip. All you're scrolling is just gossip, gossip, gossip. And then you realize 2 hours have gone, you're still on TikTok. But you went here to reply a message. You aren't going for TikTok. You're going to reply a message. 2 hours down the line, you're still on TikTok, laughing at gossip, getting depressed because you're thinking those people are living a better life than you. Your peers have left you. You are on Instagram. Men scrolling thighs after thighs. So you're looking at these thick thighs with cellulite. The next time you're looking at these thin thighs. The next time you're looking at the other one. All these things are getting confusing. And the more you look at those, the more the algorithms give you that. See that? So that's what happens. So it's not about how much time you're on phone. It's about how much creative time are you on the phone. You will realize in a whole day, you might end up having only 3 hours of creative time on the phone. The rest of the day, you're just gossiping and getting depressed and anxiety for no good reason. Right? Yeah, because that's what excites you. And realize this. This is the best question I can ask you. Can you want if you're whole? I mean, is there a way you can want something when you actually have it? That's the easiest way to say it. But the difficult way to say it is this. Can you want when you're actually whole? Can you? Is it possible? The only reason why we want things is because we don't have them. So we are constantly thinking, if I have those things, I'll be this type of person. And then you go ahead and achieve those things and you realize you're still the same person. You did not change an inch. So that should tell you that you're actually scarce from within. You are inadequate from within. It's nothing to do with the external environment. Whatever you want is because you're constantly competing with something in your head. You're competing with what somebody put in your head, that you know what, at 27 years as a man, you must have a family. Oh, you know, a lady should not get to 30 without having a family or children. So you're conforming to that standard. Basically, you're identifying with your own thoughts. And these are not your own thoughts. They're thoughts that are put there by people. So you will never want if you're whole. The other one.